330,000 so-called irregular crossings were detected on the European Union's external frontiers in 2022, a steep rise of 64% from the previous year, according to Frontex, the European Border and Coast Guard Agency. That figure doesn't include millions of Ukrainian refugees. Syrians, Afghans and Tunisians together accounted for almost half of the irregular migrant crossings. There were high numbers of migrants from Egypt, Bangladesh and Nigeria as well.
The security situation and the economic situation in most of those countries and regions has worsened even more during last year.
The Western Balkan route and the Central Mediterranean route to Italy accounted for most of the irregular arrivals. Italy's government passed a raft of asylum legislation this month, which charities like Doctors Without Borders say make it harder to rescue migrants at sea and bring them ashore. Greece is also cracking down on migrant rescue organisations. Political attitudes have hardened with the war in Ukraine, says analyst Camino Mortera Martinez.
The common discourse at the moment here in Europe goes something like, okay, we are dealing with already like a massive refugee crisis from our neighborhoods. Why should we shoulder other conflicts from other parts of the world?
13 million Ukrainian refugees entered the European Union since the start of Russia's invasion. Some 10 million crossings were also registered from Europe back into Ukraine.
We see that attacks on the civilian infrastructure are part of the war strategy of Russia. And so far, they have not resulted in increased outflows. There's a remarkable resilience of the Ukrainian society and economy. But there are, of course, potential tipping points where the situation becomes unbearable for larger populations, and then we might see an increase.
Ukrainian refugees are beginning to integrate further into Europe's labour market, says Hoffman.
The first year is a year of basic orientation somehow, getting the fundamentals of one's life in order again. Place to stay, kids at school, healthcare, things like that. So the real entry into labour markets normally only starts in the second and third year.
Meanwhile, the EU accuses Belarus of conducting what it calls state-organised migration since 2021, where migrants were encouraged to breach the border with Poland. The EU is wary of Russia using the same tactic.
The Kremlin has sort of increased the number of flights in between certain countries in the Middle East and Northern Africa and Kaliningrad, probably with the intention of creating another crisis.
A special summit aimed at agreeing on a common EU policy on migration is due to be held next month. Observers say long-standing divisions between member states mean a breakthrough is unlikely. Henry Ridgwell for VOA News, London.